Thank you. I've got a lapel mic on. If anyone at any point can't hear me talking, then just do that wave they do in Team America and I'll get a mic. For those of you that don't know, I'm the founder of Worry+Peace. The best way to describe what we do is that we're an insurance retailer. We sell personal lines products and we also stock commercial lines products. We have an e-commerce solution and we also have an application that we call Pouch. Now you're probably all wondering why I've got a giant tennis ball in my hand. It's simple really, it's just for a bit of memory fuel to remember me. I once got told by a mentor, you know, it doesn't matter what you say, just make sure people vaguely remember you afterwards. So that's the theme of this. But it does actually represent something as well, because we're all in here because we're interested in innovating the world of insurance. And I think the game of tennis is a fantastic metaphor for it, because you haven't actually lost the game of tennis until the opponent walks off and has got all the score and points they need, right? So as long as you're still on the court and your opponent hasn't won, you're still in the game, right? You can still win. And no tennis player personifies that more than the likes of Andy Murray, okay? His game plan is get the ball back over the net. Don't worry about whether or not it's ugly or an attractive shot. Get it back over the net, and you're still in the match. And I think when it comes to innovating insurance, never a truer metaphor spoken. So who wants to keep the ball? Hands up, anyone? You look like you want it. So, oh, there you go, hand up. Public liability issue right there straight away. So what makes us different? Well, this is probably, again, a bit tongue-in-cheek. We don't obviously think we're awesome. No one does. That's egotistical. But what we're trying to do when it comes to changing the world of insurance is take inspiration from the likes of Amazon. It didn't start off stocking absolutely everything and being super amazing and fully involved in its entire supply chain. It had to start somewhere. We want to sell and stock an inventory that's unrivaled on the internet. So to do that, we've had to take incremental steps, and that's really about having the right insurance partners, the right wider partners, and the right technology. And you can see that the starting gate is already done, but a lot of the disruption that takes place in the sector, I feel, is the culmination of lots of little things. And for us, we've very much taken a patient approach to building what Worry+Peace represents. Bit of a plug, coming in October, we've got the third major update of Pouch. And again, as I've said to you, our approach has always been to get better each time we do a sprint, each time we do something. This next update for Pouch is codenamed Sherbet Pips, probably why you can see all the sweets on the screen. Why not? Name them after childhood sweets. And it's going to be pretty seismic. It's actually a really big move for us. It gives Pouch a capability that no one else will have on the market. I think it may well change the way consumers interact with carriers and where they find insurance as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I won't give too much away now. So what do I want to talk about today? I actually didn't really come here to talk purely about Worry+Peace. There are enough startups kind of patting themselves on the back and saying they know what they're doing. But what many of you probably don't know is I sit on several industry committees, donate my time to try and improve the way the industry operates and works. In my time setting up Worry+Peace, and that tennis ball metaphor very much sums it up, I've encountered some really difficult things, some issues about the way things are done and some barriers to the way things are done. And I think our brand as a sector, as a whole, is unaffected by what any one individual brand does. You know, Worry+Peace can have a fantastic logo and a great way of doing things, but we're a drop in the ocean, and so is every other startup and even every other insurer relative to what consumers think about our product. So I want to talk about that today. Well, what's the first observation about insurtech? In terms of retail insurance, specifically for consumers, which is where the bulk of insurtechs are coming from, the brands aren't what they've been before. The way that awareness and attention was grabbed by brands of old is totally not being replicated by the insurtechs. And that's going to be a really interesting collision when it comes to how the industry reacts to the insurtech opportunity. You know, I coin it here, it's rather tongue-in-cheek again. The fancy dress party is over. But that method of deriving growth and building business has been incredibly effective. So are the insurtechs and are the insurers that are backing them really certain that we've got a narrative to tether to the fact that things are changing and this has been what consumers are used to? I've left the MGAA off this, unfortunately. I apologize to anyone there representing them. But the first issue we've got to represent is industry visibility. As as part of an insurtech business, we suffer from the fact that everyone is inherently biased and against what we sell. Even the investors are looking for something super sexy because they kind of hate what the product is. So if it's looking like old insurance, it's bad. But let's not chuck the baby out with the bathwater. There's a huge amount of wisdom and expertise in the stakeholders of the sector, and there simply has to be a common denominator. So the challenge for anyone here, depending on what sector inside the insurance industry as a whole you represent, find those common denominators and look for opportunities to connect with the other industry stakeholders. What insurance is really bad at is being visible to consumers who've actually used the product and showing that usage. So it's easy to sell a product, right? There's an umbilical cord attached afterwards where we all need to keep the documentation, and maybe a minority of consumers then make a claim. But what does the industry do? Absolutely nothing afterwards. You look at an institution like UK Aid or the EU, and everything they do is virtue signaled. There's signposting absolutely everywhere to show you what EU money has built, what UK Aid has helped repair. The insurance sector is relatively mute in this respect. So everything it does, which is fantastically positive for the country, all the positive impact is kind of secret and nothing happens. So if you're an innovator out there, maybe there's something that can be done there. All these claims that are being paid, should we be being more visible about this, whether that's in a virtual world or the real world? One thing's for certain, though, is I was at a talk at Balderton Capital, and the intermediary's back. Balderton Capital were debating whether or not it's intermediaries or carriers that can disrupt insurance, and overwhelmingly the crowd said intermediaries could disrupt insurance. I don't know if it was a room full of intermediaries, but it stands to reason. I'm an intermediary, and I personally have found one of the main things that is a struggle to get your head around is you approach a carrier and you say to them, I want to do something different, I'd like to sell your product, I think I can get you this return. And in humble terms, you're not promising the earth. You might be promising a few 100,000 GWP for a certain line. And the stock response is typically, it's too expensive to do an agency with you. Well, I'd argue, if you can't put a price on your TOBA and potentially challenge someone who's looking to have you as their underwriter or their support, then there's a problem there. You have to be able to put a price on this. It will also help filter out all of the buyers from the triers. There's a new model for brokers that's emerging at the moment as well from being intermediaries in the market, and that's a customer friend model. The issue of advice for us is a massive one. With so many people buying products directly, is there an opportunity to say, well, look, an insurance intermediary in the past has been a conduit to distribute insurance. Why do they need to do that? Can they not advise people that are buying insurance themselves? And I think new models are appearing that certainly do that. In terms of insurers engaging with intermediaries and new insurtech startups, I don't think there's a toolkit enough for them to do that. Tax credits certainly don't provide a good enough solution, and SEIS doesn't naturally, organically apply to insurance. Not to mention the fact there's not been a single carrier launched by the PRA. Solvency issues are all over that kind of problem. So I've, again, been lobbying the industry, and I'd love to hear people's views on that in the future. Start thinking about what would incentivize you to work with startups. Finally, I know I'm a bit pushed for time here. You get about 10 minutes to cram all this in. But this is the big idea. One of the main issues that I've had as a startup is having to navigate all the different ways that money moves around the sector. And I really think that the sector needs its own specific capital plug, an escrow account, where every single broker, every single insurer, all the regulators involved can plug into. Everyone's got a clear picture of what's going on, and that liquidity can then be used to help people. I mean, the premium credit industry alone is £3 billion, 20% interest on a lot of policies. This pool of premium that the industry moves around day by day, the inefficiency of that, I can't even begin to tell you. I'd need about half an hour. Everything is different, from risk transfer through to the reporting structures. And I think a lot of opportunity for consumer savings is falling through the cracks. Last slide, so I'll jump away, but a cautionary tale on moving towards technology. We've had a lot of new business model startups approaching us looking for business cover. And whilst we're all moving towards these fit, don't fit quote solutions where customers are buying themselves, let's not move away from the humanity of insurance, that innovative core that led to Lloyd's becoming a global name. Because change isn't just happening in our industry, it's happening in every other sector. I mean, I know you probably saw the news today as well. Something like Uber losing its license in London. How does that affect an underwriter's view of a new startup? If we can't underwrite these startups, then these new innovations across the entire economy can't improve everyone's life. So we really do need to have an open mind to new business models and make sure that as our sector changes, we change with the outside world too, as well as adapting our own systems to grow. I guess my final rallying call is for people to really believe in UK insurance. It's no secret that we don't raise as much capital here as perhaps in America, but the UK has a massive comparative advantage here to grow a global unicorn. I have no doubt that InsurTech, in terms of the way it's going to restructure incumbents and it's going to bring exciting startups to the sector, it's going to be a great opportunity for the UK economy, but it's also going to be a great opportunity for us to project and grow around the world. I personally would love to see a unicorn, come out of the UK scene, and many, I think, can indeed arise if we all support and look to some of these issues that I've raised to restructure the way we consider the industry brand and how we can engage with it. Thank you very much. Cheers.